Imagine spending 10 years mastering a career only to discover the world no longer needs it. Not because you failed, but because systems learned faster than humans ever could. Tonight, I am not talking about the future. I am talking about careers that are already quietly disappearing. For most of modern history, surgery has been defined by one thing: human hands. A surgeon studies for more than a decade, learns anatomy, learns precision, learns how to cut, open, repair, and close the human body without causing irreversible harm. We trust surgeons because of their skill, their steadiness, their judgment under pressure. When someone needs surgery today, we still believe something very specific: that the safest outcome comes from a trained human, standing over the patient, holding the instruments, making decisions moment by moment. That belief feels natural, almost sacred, but quietly, something has already changed. Modern surgery is no longer guided only by human instinct. Before the first incision is made, machines already know more than the surgeon's eyes. High-resolution imaging maps the body in microscopic detail. AI systems analyze tissue density, blood flow, and risk zones. Robotic arms assist with movements that require precision beyond human steadiness. Even today, some surgical robots can move more accurately than the best human hands. They do not shake. They do not tire. They do not misjudge distance under stress. More importantly, they do not forget protocols. And here is the uncomfortable truth in surgery: perfection matters more than intuition. A difference of 1 millimeter can decide whether a patient heals or suffers permanent damage. Now imagine this: 10 years from now, a patient enters a surgical center, but instead of preparing for a human-led operation, the system begins first. Full body scans are completed in minutes. The AI simulates thousands of surgical outcomes instantly. It calculates the safest path, the optimal incision points, the exact force required, and the precise dosage of medication needed at every stage. The system does not ask how the surgeon feels that day. It does not rely on memory. It does not improvise. It executes. The human surgeon is still present, but not as the one holding the scalpel. They supervise. They approve the override if necessary. Their role shifts from operator to guardian. And from a system perspective, this makes perfect sense, because when a mistake happens, the question will no longer be, which doctor made the error? It will be, why did we allow a human hand to do what a system could do more precisely? This is not about disrespecting surgeons. It is about how systems evolve. Healthcare systems do not optimize for pride. They optimize for outcomes, consistency, and liability. Machines do not need rest. They do not have bad days. They do not age. They do not carry emotional fatigue from the previous operation. As technology improves, human hands slowly become the weakest link. Not because humans are incompetent, but because systems prefer predictability over brilliance. Surgeons will not disappear overnight, but the definition of a surgeon will change, from master of the blade to overseer of the system, and for a profession built on hands. That is a fundamental transformation. So the question is no longer whether surgery will be automated. It already is. The real question is this: if even the most respected life-saving profession in society can be quietly redefined by systems, what else is next? For decades, pilots have represented one thing above all else: safety. When passengers board an aircraft, they believe a trained human is sitting at the front, hands on the controls, actively flying the plane, ready to react to danger at any moment. The cockpit has become a symbol of reassurance, a place where experience, instinct, and calm judgment protect hundreds of lives at once. Pilots are trusted because they are human, because they can think, because they can decide under pressure. Most people imagine a pilot constantly adjusting altitude, steering through clouds, actively managing the aircraft from takeoff to landing. And because of that belief, the idea of removing pilots feels terrifying, almost irresponsible. But that belief is already outdated in modern aviation. Most commercial flights are already controlled by systems, not hands. Shortly after takeoff, autopilot systems take over. They manage speed, altitude, navigation, fuel efficiency, and stability. Flight management computers continuously calculate optimal routes, adjust for weather conditions, coordinate with air traffic control, faster than any human ever could. Pilots today spend most of their time monitoring screens, verifying data, confirming system decisions. They intervene rarely, and when they do, it is often to manage situations the system was never designed to handle. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The safest flights are usually the ones where the system is doing the flying. The system does not get distracted. It does not become tired during long-haul flights. It does not lose focus after hours of routine monitoring. Milliseconds matter. Machines are very good at milliseconds. As aircraft systems improve, the definition of risk begins to change. Human reaction time varies. Human judgment differs from person to person. Human performance declines with fatigue, stress, and age. Machines do not have these problems. From a system perspective, humans introduce unpredictability. And in a field where safety is measured statistically, unpredictability is dangerous when something goes wrong. Aviation authorities ask hard questions. Was it mechanical failure or human error? Did the pilot react too late? Did fatigue play a role? As systems grow more accurate, these questions become uncomfortable, because if a machine consistently performs better than a human, then keeping a human in control becomes a liability, not a safeguard. At that point, the argument is no longer emotional. It becomes mathematical. Now imagine aviation 10 years from now. Aircraft are fully connected to global networks. Weather systems update in real time. Traffic coordination spans continents. Emergency scenarios are predicted before they happen. Every flight is simulated thousands of times before it ever leaves the ground. Pilots are still present, but they no longer fly. They supervise, they improve system decisions. They intervene only if something truly unexpected occurs. Over time, even that role begins to disappear. Remote oversight replaces physical presence. One specialist monitors multiple flights from the ground. Eventually, aircraft are no longer designed with human cockpits at all. Not because pilots are incapable, but because systems are safer. Aviation has always prioritized one value above all else: safety. And when removing humans reduces accidents even further, the decision becomes unavoidable. The most unsettling realization is this: the moment statistics prove that planes are safer without pilots, keeping humans in the cockpit becomes irresponsible. And when safety is at stake, society always chooses numbers over nostalgia. For most of human history, teachers held authority for one simple reason: access. They controlled knowledge. Books were rare. Information moved slowly. Learning required presence. If you wanted to understand mathematics, history, science, or philosophy, you needed a teacher, not only to explain, but to decide what mattered. Classrooms were built around scarcity: one expert, many learners, fixed curriculum, standard pace. Education felt stable, predictable, human. That structure survived empires, wars, and revolutions. But it was built on one assumption: that knowledge was limited. That assumption no longer exists today. A student does not wait. They ask a question and receive an answer instantly, not from one teacher, but from millions of sources. AI systems now explain concepts step by step. Math problems broken down visually. Physics simulated in real time. History presented from multiple perspectives. Languages taught with perfect pronunciation. And when a student does not understand, the explanation changes. Slower, simpler, deeper. No embarrassment, no classroom pressure, no fixed pace. This is the first fracture, because once learning becomes personalized, the one-to-many classroom model weakens. Teaching shifts from authority to optional guidance. Here is the problem education systems face. They are standardized by necessity. same syllabus, same exams, same pacing. But humans do not learn the same way. AI does not care about uniformity. It adapts instantly. Fast learners accelerate, struggling learners slow down, curious learners go deeper. Meanwhile, classrooms must move together. Teachers become managers of time, not curiosity. They enforce schedules, not mastery. This creates tension. Students feel bored or left behind. Teachers feel exhausted. Parents feel confused, not because teachers are failing, but because the system no longer matches reality. Now imagine education 10 years from now. Most information delivery is automated. AI teaches content. Systems track progress. Algorithms adjust difficulty. Human educators still exist, but their role changes completely. They are no longer lecturers. They become mentors, guides, human anchors. They help with emotional regulation, social development, ethics, motivation, identity formation. The problem is scale. Society does not need millions of content deliverers anymore. It needs fewer, highly skilled human guides. And when a profession loses its mass role, it does not vanish. It contracts. Teaching does not disappear, but it becomes selective. And when knowledge becomes infinite and immediate, education stops being about answers. It becomes about meaning. And meaning is the last thing machines cannot fully replace. For centuries, lawyers held power for one core reason: interpretation. The law is not simple. Statutes conflict. Precedents overlap. Language leaves room for argument. Legal authority came from memory, reasoning, and experience. Who remembered the right case? Who understood how judges thought? Who could argue nuance convincingly? Legal researchers supported the system. They searched libraries. They traced precedents. They connected rulings across decades. Law felt safe from automation because judgment felt human, because reasoning felt irreplaceable. That belief lasted longer than most, but it is now cracking. Here is the uncomfortable reality. Most legal work is not courtroom drama. It is research, finding relevant cases, comparing precedents, identifying contradictions, drafting standard documents, contracts, wills, compliance filings, corporate agreements. These documents follow patterns. And pattern-based work is exactly where AI excels. Modern systems can scan entire legal databases in seconds, millions of cases, every statute update, every ruling across jurisdictions. They do not forget obscure precedents. They do not misread clauses. They do not overlook footnotes. What once took junior lawyers weeks now takes seconds. Legal research stops being a skill. It becomes a function. When a profession loses its foundational labor, its business model breaks. The legal industry depends on time. Billable hours, research charged by effort, document review, price by duration. AI destroys this model quietly. When research takes seconds, billing hours becomes indefensible. When contracts are drafted instantly, junior roles disappear. When compliance checks are automated, entire teams shrink. Clients notice. They ask uncomfortable questions. Why am I paying for time that no longer exists? Why does this cost so much? When systems do it faster, firms resist at first. But resistance does not stop efficiency. It only delays acceptance. And delayed acceptance is expensive. Now imagine law 10 years from now. Most people never speak to a lawyer. Legal needs are handled by systems. Disputes are pre-screened, analyzed, resolved algorithmically. Human lawyers still exist, but only for edge cases, high-stakes litigation, unprecedented disputes, complex moral gray zones. Even then, they rely on systems that already know the strongest argument, the likely outcome, the judge's historical bias, the probability of success. The human role becomes persuasion, not research, interpretation, not discovery. Law does not disappear, but it stops being a mass profession. It becomes narrow, selective, elite, and when authority shifts from memory to computation. The courtroom becomes one of the last places where humans still matter. When justice runs faster than humans can think, law stops being practiced, it becomes executed. When people think of architects, they think of creativity, a person sketching ideas on paper, shaping skylines, designing buildings that will last generations. Architects are seen as visionaries, people who balance beauty and function, who understand space, light flow, how humans move through environments. For centuries, architecture has been deeply human. Buildings reflected culture, cities reflected identity, design carried meaning beyond structure. Because of that, architecture feels irreplaceable, like something machines could never truly understand. But that assumption is already being tested. Modern architecture today is no longer driven only by imagination. It is driven by constraints, budget limits, zoning laws, environmental regulations, structural efficiency, energy optimization, material availability. Every design decision must satisfy hundreds of variables at once. This is where systems begin to excel. Generative design software can already produce thousands of building variations in minutes, each version optimized for sunlight exposure, airflow, energy consumption, structural load, cost efficiency. What takes a human team weeks or months, systems can explore instantly. The role of the architect quietly shifts from creator to selector instead of designing from scratch. Architects increasingly choose from machine-generated options. They tweak the approved. They justify decisions to clients and authorities. Creativity does not disappear, but it becomes constrained by algorithms that outperform intuition. Cities today are not judged by beauty alone. They are judged by sustainability, efficiency, carbon impact, cost per square meter, long-term maintenance. Optimization is not subjective. It is measurable. AI systems do not ask what looks good. They ask what performs best. They simulate decades of usage, stress, weather, human movement. Before a single brick is laid, when two designs are compared, the one that saves more energy, costs less, and lasts longer, almost always wins over time. Emotional arguments lose power. Clients do not ask, "What do you feel about this design?" They ask, "What performs better?" Architecture becomes less about vision and more about results. And results belong to systems that calculate faster than humans ever could. Now imagine architecture 10 years from now. A city announces a new residential district. The parameters are uploaded: population density, climate data, budget, infrastructure limits, cultural preferences. Within minutes, thousands of optimized city layouts are generated. Streets, buildings, utilities, green spaces, all arranged for maximum efficiency and livability. Human architects are still involved, but mostly as reviewers, cultural advisors, regulatory translators. The original act of design no longer belongs to them. Over time, even that role shrinks. Developers trust systems more than individual designers. Governments prefer predictable outcomes. Insurance companies favor structures with statistically lower risk. Architecture does not disappear, but architects slowly lose authorship. And the most unsettling realization is this: when buildings are safer, cheaper, and more efficient without human creativity, society begins to see creativity as optional, not because humans failed, but because systems performed better. And when performance becomes the only metric that matters, authorship quietly fades away. Accountants and auditors exist for one reason above all others: trust. They verify numbers. They confirm accuracy. They make sure money is real, recorded correctly, legally compliant. For decades, businesses have depended on them to answer one critical question: are these numbers true? Auditors go even further. They do not just record reality, they challenge it. They investigate discrepancies. They protect institutions from fraud, mistakes, and collapse. This role feels deeply human: judgment, ethics, responsibility. It feels like something machines should never control. But here is the uncomfortable truth: most accounting today is already rule-based. Modern accounting is not about intuition. It is about standards, tax codes, compliance frameworks, reporting rules, regulatory thresholds. Most decisions are conditional. If this, then that. If income crosses this line, apply this rule. If expenses exceed this ratio, flag it. This is exactly how systems think. AI accounting systems already scan millions of transactions in seconds. They detect anomalies instantly. They reconcile books continuously, not quarterly, not yearly, continuously. Human accountants check samples, systems check everything. Auditors used to investigate after problems appeared. Now systems predict problems before they happen. The role quietly shifts from verifier to supervisor, and supervisors are always the next layer to disappear. One of the strongest arguments for human accountants has always been judgment, but judgment also introduces error, fatigue, bias, oversight, pressure from clients or employers. Systems do not get tired. They do not fear consequences. They do not accept bribes. They do not overlook patterns because of emotion. As soon as the system becomes statistically more accurate than a human, trust shifts, not emotionally, legally. Insurance companies trust systems more. Regulators begin to require automated reporting. Governments demand real-time tax data instead of annual filings. At that point, human accounting stops being the standard. It becomes the backup. Now imagine accounting 10 years from now. Every transaction is logged instantly. Every tax obligation is calculated in real time. Every anomaly is flagged the moment it appears. There is no annual audit, because the audit never stops. Companies no longer hire large accounting teams. They license systems. Human accountants remain only for edge cases. Legal interpretation, public assurance, unusual disputes. Even then, their role is symbolic. The system already knows the answer. And here is the most unsettling point. Fraud does not disappear, but it changes. Instead of hiding numbers from humans, people attempt to manipulate systems, and systems adapt faster than people can. Accounting becomes invisible. And when a role becomes invisible, it becomes expendable. Trust no longer lives in people. It lives in processes that never sleep. And once trust moves into systems, it rarely moves back. If technology is reshaping careers this quickly, then one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Some careers will be disrupted. Some will shrink. Some will disappear entirely. This is not speculation. It is already happening. But not all careers are doomed. There are roles that technology struggles to replace, careers built on judgment, on presence, on responsibility, on human trust, and those careers matter more than ever. The danger is not automation itself. The danger is choosing the wrong path without realizing the world has already changed. In the next video, I will break down the careers that will not be affected by this wave of technology, even as AI continues to accelerate. If you do not want to miss that, subscribe. And if there is a question you have been thinking about or a scenario you want me to explore, leave it in the comments. If your comment gets enough attention from active viewers, that idea may become the next video. Because the future is not something we wait for. It is something we understand.